location where the negotiations are taking place. And also, there are schools, embassies around these buildings. And the trauma that they created for the Qatari people actually is also something like affected them significantly. Yet, we still have a responsibility as a country to protect our citizens, to ensure that there are enough security assurances and security guarantees for them, and actually also ensuring that our role will remain adding value to put an end for the conflict and will not be affected. We always, if you look at the pattern of our policies, Ayman, in the last 10 years, we always take the high road. We always try to pursue diplomacy over any other options. We went through all the legal channels, the diplomatic channels, in making sure that this attack is not repeated and making sure that Qatar and the people of Qatar are protected. And then we resumed the talks. But what the people don't know actually is that on the day after the day of the attack, and when His Highness was speaking with President Trump, and President Trump was telling him that this might represent an opportunity for us to put an end for the war in Gaza, His Highness was very much positive on that. Although we have held all the communication with the Israelis at that time, we remained engaged with the U.S. in order to make sure that we can get to a solution.
This might be a bit of a difficult question, but there was some questions as to whether or not the United States knew about the attack. Does Qatar have an assessment as to whether or not, I mean, I know the administration came out and said that they didn't know about the attack, they were notified about the attack, but I imagine that it's a difficult situation for you and your leadership in the sense that on one hand, if America did know about the attack and they didn't warn you, that would be a breach of trust. If they didn't know about the attack, what does that mean that America's closest ally in the region, which receives billions of dollars, can carry out an attack against a very close American ally?
Well, I think the attack has affected like the heart of the security architecture of Qatar and the security architecture of the region.
Interesting. How
because so? When you look at this is for the first time that an Israeli strike killed someone from the GCC, and it killed a Qatari citizen who was just serving as part of the security details in that location, and he used to serve in the American embassy before that. So and everyone was shocked. Everyone in the region was shocked. You have seen the leaders from the region, from different countries, they were coming to Qatar, the summits that took place in Qatar. This has shaken like the entire understanding of what kind of security we have. Now, on the U.S. side, we, of course, the relationship that Qatar has with the U.S., we deeply appreciate it, we deeply value. And what we hear from the President and the Vice President and the Secretary of State, they were very clear that they have no knowledge about the attack. And of course, we respect what they are saying, and we understand that this is a decision that's been taken solely by the Israelis. But the concept itself to feel betrayed that you are attacking, a mediation while it's ongoing. At the same time, on the day of the attack, there were the Colombians negotiating, and just hundreds of meters away from that location. We had the Rwanda and DRC negotiations ongoing, and having this attack in Qatar on 9th of a country that doing all these kind of mediations being attacked, this has never been thought of. And I think that the same shock we heard it from the US and from the president himself, that he will not allow this to happen again. And he will make sure that all the assurances that we will require will be in place for us.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about some of those mediation efforts in just a second, but just to close this out, how did the momentum then change after that? You said that President Trump spoke to His Highness and said this could be an opportunity. How did we get from then September 9th to the ceasefire? Did something change in the calculation of the Americans saying we're willing now to put leverage on Israel to bring them to sign this deal in a way that we hadn't seen before?
Well, I think that the attack itself has shown the U.S. that there are all the red lines being crossed now in the region. And, you know, Qatar is a country that hosts 10,000 U.S. soldiers. And we have the largest U.S. airbase outside the United States that we are hosting in Doha. Having an attack from a U.S. ally is out of the equation for us, yeah. And it was never calculated in our defense formula. And look, if you look at like throughout the history of Qatar, we've been attacked 3 times. The first time was by Saddam Hussein. It was Scud missiles, which fall in the desert in the 90s. The second time was with Iran, when they were responding to the U.S., and we intercepted most of the missiles. One of them has reached the target in our base, actually, in our side of the base, also not the U.S. side of the base. This attack was different because it killed one of our citizens. And basically, you know that how emotional we were at that time. But His Highness, when the president mentioned that to him, he stood up for it. He stood up for his region, and he put the region's interest ahead of his own interest. And we know that this is something that will bring stability to the region without, compromising the rights of our people and the rights for our country to be protected.
Do you think, because you said that it brought the GCC a little bit closer, and other countries in the region saw that if Qatar can be attacked this way, they too certainly can be attacked. Did that change the calculation? Do you have any insight whether it changed the calculation of other countries in the region as to how they perceive Israel, and whether or not a country like Saudi Arabia would go ahead with Abraham Accords?
No, definitely. Actually, it affected how the GCC looking at Israel now, because when they see the attack on